taps the leading kobold on the shoulder and says, "Good job."
And Trex says he's going to go inform the general that you've arrived. Feel free to make yourself home in the meantime. And his little group of kobolds kind of scatter to do their own thing. So what are you guys doing in the immediate future?
I think we should go look for any Moakton here. Are any Moakton obviously walking around the camp, or is it just kobolds as far as the eye can see?
Kobolds and several Dragonborn. You don't see any Moakton immediately, but there are several tents set up around the periphery. And it's a very densely wooded area, so anybody could go like 20 feet into the tree line and you wouldn't be able to see them either. But scanning the tree line, you do see no small amount of Erd scouts in the higher trees of the area, doing a very good job of camouflaging themselves. Birdie's like, alright, everybody be careful where you step. This many kobolds, every 5 square feet is gonna be trapped.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that they pooped on it.
Probably. Well, no, these are civilized kobolds. They probably have a good latrine pit back there.
I mean,
flying kobolds can't control their own sphincters, though.
I missed that page of the monster manual.
I think you're thinking of birds. But anyway.
What do you instruct Josiah to do with his group of Moakton for the time being?
I think they should stick together. Our plan is to immediately start looking for the other Moakton, so maybe they can just come with us.
I'd say leave one of the generals, have them begin setting up camp outside this encampment. Okay. Have one of the two stay with them, and the other one come with us.
That seems fair.
So, do you want Josiah to come with you, or Ubrid?
Yeah, they can flip for it.
I'll word it like that. One of you come with us, and one of you stay with your group.
I'm not making this decision for you. Which one do you request?
I think Josiah would probably be best.
Okay. So Ubrid takes the other Moakton over to the Overlook. And you see them set to work. Very clumsily building a fire. Like they don't have a whole lot of practice at doing this. As you guys enter into the camp. And after a few moments, you do see Irioned emerge from one of the tents. And she's astonished, and she immediately races over to where you're standing.
Oh god.
Where were you guys headed?
Years.
Repeat that question, I didn't hear it.
Where were you guys standing at camp? Like, where were you making towards on this map?
That's the middle.
I thought the X was where we were.
The X, okay.
Yeah, X is fine.
Then yeah, you're actually very close to where she is, because she emerges from this tent here. And she looks 800 years old. She says, "Where have you been?"
Oh, it's been 800 years.
You have this fantastic Bioshock moment. No, she is astonished to see you all. She said that she and Tudor and the other Moakton had feared that you had been killed, that you hadn't been seen in such a long time.
That doesn't sound like us.
Clarify, long time.
She says it's been a little over a year.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Winter has come and gone and come again.
It's still a year. But we can work with that. At least it's not 100.
We had some fun in the Feywild. Had a few laughs. Got threatened to be cooked into a pie.
I had some laughs about it.
They had some laughs about it. I didn't.
She tells you that the village has been taken over. Apparently on your suggestion.
Well,
that's a lie.
a militant group of lizard folk.
That's a lie. That is such a lie. That is an unbelievable lie.
Well, she said that she obviously didn't believe it was your suggestion, but a red dragon woman now resides there
Yep.
with most of her cadre of lizard folk to ensure the safety of her people. She gathered together several of the people in the town and sent them to her swamp to be held as wards.
I'm gonna be honest with you. We have done nothing but favors for this woman.
And at this point, you guys have been speaking in common.
Yeah.
And at this point, she sees this incredibly old Moakton standing with you guys. And she inquires as to his name. And he introduces himself as Josiah, but he doesn't give his family name. He just leaves it at that for now.
Can Josiah speak common?
He can. He can speak common and he can speak Moakton.
Oh,
He speaks common very badly. He speaks Moakton very well, but after he and his sister, the White Mother, stopped teaching the Moakton, she took their own language and forbade them from speaking it. So the rest of the Moakton you guys have been traveling with only speak Sylvan.
so how many Moakton are in the camp?
She says just her. She was the only one who managed to get away that night. She headed out into the wilderness, and she was very quickly she was captured by the kobolds. But after hearing her story, and she told them a great deal about all of you and what you had done for the town and some of your exploits in hunting orcs.
How
That she was
long...
no longer kept captive here. She's been working closely with Hantao to determine a way to liberate the village from the lizard folk without opening it up to attack from orcs.
Have you had any conversation with the people in the town?
And she says no, not for several weeks.
When did all of this happen?
And about this time you see an incredibly large and muscular red dragon man walking towards you. And on either side of him, a red dragonborn flanking each side. He is armed with an enormous great sword, easily 8 feet tall, with extremely ruby red scales and very sharp horns and spikes protruding from his face, wearing heavy plate armor. At each of his side are Dragonborn. One is red and one has a much more orange complexion. They're armed as well.
It's actually just a kobold with a strength of 20.
It's like 2 kobolds, one stacked on the other.
3 kobolds in a trench coat.
3 kobolds in a trench coat. And as he arrives, Red, you're asking about how long ago this was.
Yeah.
You're asking in common?
Mm-hmm.
And the man answers in very good common, very clear. He says that his campaign, he's only been in the area for several months, although many of his sires, kobolds, have been attempting to find foothold here against the orcs for the better part of a year.
Can you give us a rough timeline of what's gone down over the last year?
He tells you he would be delighted. And he introduces himself as General Hantao. He holds out his mailed glove.
Yeah, Brett will shake his hand.
And it's a very forceful handshake.
Adrex is in no way feeling threatened. Not even a little bit.
Do you mean like physically or like threatening your manhood?
How tall is Adrex? How big is Adrex?
I did give him height. Let me find it.
He has height.
Oh, apparently no, I didn't. We'll say Adrex is a little bit on the smaller end. So
Like 6'2", 6'3".
yeah.
So, Huyan was also a half-dragon, and she was a little bigger than Adrex. But the general towers over the both of you easily. He is enormous. In fact, the armor he's wearing, just the strength it would take to put that much metal on your frame and carry it around. Adrex is like, nah, I'm out. Not happening. It's like,
Can I back up? Sorry.
Back up?
Back up 1 second. Was he a dragonborn or a half dragon?
The general's a half-dragon. He's got
Okay.
2 dragonborn lieutenants, one on either side of him. There's a red
Okay.
one and an orange one.
Do I have any idea from his physiology what the other half is?
Make a... Tell me what kind of check you're making.
Probably nature makes the most sense.
He's
Assuming
half dragon,
it's-
half dragon.
Make a nature check at disadvantage.
Disadvantage. That would be a 12.
A 12? Running through your head the various types of humanoids that the general's mother might be. Can't think of anything that big. It would have had to have been something monstrous.
He's taller than Goliath from a Seraphal.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Hantel tells you that there's not much here in the way of hospitality, but they do have food, they have fire, they have water, and they have protection. He looks at Adrex. I'm not Adrex. He looks at Birdie. And he kind of squints at him for a moment. And it says, given the shape of your jaw and the particular swirl of your tail, I would take you for one of Keelbreath's, if not for your complexion.
Birdie stiffens when they mention that's the black dragon, right?
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't remember if that was the name you settled on. Birdie stiffens, and then doesn't. He just stiffens. He doesn't agree or disagree or say anything.
Says he. I had heard that Keelbreath's lands had been attacked by orcs, but the dragon still lives. Is this true?
Birdie nods.
And he returns the nod, and he says, "May the day come where your sire again builds his hoard quite tall."
Birdie relaxes and shakes his head enthusiastically. Says, "Thank you."
He then turns to Adrex. He says, "My apologies, cousin. I don't make your sire."
Well, yeah. Hmm. Then Adrix sort of trails off.
Name's Whitey Bulger, the mobster dragon.
He turns to one of the Dragonborn, and in Draconic, he gives them swift instructions for one of these tables to be cleared and placed with fresh meat for their guests. The Dragonborn turns, and he barks the orders down to the kobolds in their horrific pigeon tongue. He starts yelling and getting the work done. And I mean, they just brush everything sitting on the table onto the ground, and Kobold starts scurrying it away to a trash pile somewhere. Fresh meat is brought out.
If any of us
actually
have a
just-
pigeon tongue.
I was actually just trying to stall to see if I could recover the document that has his name in it, and I totally can't even find it.
Oh, but does Adrex tell him the name of his sire?
Nah.
Doesn't? Okay.
My clumsiness can be Adrix's stupidity.
He's question mark, the lost dragon.
Hanto
Here it is,
stands
Dalriston. There we go.
bolt upright at the head of this table and bids you all to sit, take rest, take what food you will, and he's happy to fill you in on the occurrences of the past year.
So he's over here.
Yeah, he'd be standing right at the head of this table. This whole top table here has been cleared away. There are still kobolds bickering and whatnot at this one here.
Standing on the table.
Birdie, you immediately recognize there is a pretty strict hierarchy here. This general, the whole time you have been in this camp, he does not look at, speak to, or make eye contact with any of these kobolds. All of his orders are delegated through his Dragonborn lieutenants. And same thing, none of these kobolds make eye contact or even come within a few feet of the general.
But he's not treating me that way, is he?
He's what?
He's not treating me that way, so I don't care.
No, he's inviting you to eat at his table as one of his guests.
Yeah, it's like, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Birdie's like, well, there must not be rad kobolds like me.
Be right back.
Not my tribe, not my problem.
So he directs his questioning to Red, who's been making most of the inquiries. He says, if I may first trouble you for an explanation of what my sister has told you, it may help me better to offer context to why I'm here and what we're meaning to accomplish.
Yeah, I'll give him pretty much the unabridged truth about what Yuan told us when she first captured us.
The other two.
Birdie pipes in, and then she threatened to eat me.
I won't. I won't volunteer about how we kind of caused the orc relations to deteriorate. But
Okay, so you tell him the truth, but not the whole truth.
well, I
nothing
didn't
but
ask
the
for
truth.
that part. He
Gotcha.
just asked what she said. I won't point out that we might have pissed off the orcs.
He said that he was tasked by his grandsire, Kyangyan, to find his wayward daughter Huyan and bring her home. That she had stolen something of great value that Kyangyan needed back. At first, he delegated these tasks to the kobolds. The first couple of months, there was no response.
I'm back.
And was that about a year ago?
He says this was a little over a year ago, yes.
Right.
Well,
He then says that eventually he started making inquiries into other minor allies that he had in the region and was hearing stories of incredibly emboldened orcs in the area, supposedly having skirmishes with the lizard folk that were known to live at Shallow Scale Lake. That's when Hanto decided to come out himself with his own contingent. He said he set out with almost 3 times this number, along with many of the Dragonborn. However, the orcs bled them a great deal. What he's been able to piece together is that Huyan has holed herself up in a Moakton village near to here. And anytime his kobolds attempt to approach the village, they are repelled by lizard folk. At the same time, there are very large orc patrols in the region that he believes want to take the village for themselves, but for some reason have not done so yet. Because his sister is there, and because he knows that these Moakton are essentially innocent parties in all of these dealings. Anytime the orcs have closed in too much, the kobolds have chased them off. So things are at a very tense standstill, and have been for probably the past 2 months.
Can I do an insight to see how much I... Basically, do I think he's on the up and up about actually defending the village from orcs?
The way he tells the story, he doesn't... You get the sense that he doesn't care much about defending the village. It's more that what he wants is currently in the village.
Okay.
If the village gets raided by orcs, his mission is a failure. That being said, this is a man that takes great pleasure in murdering orcs.
Okay.
So I like him.
And yeah,
It's
Arianed
not
confirms...
murdering if it's orcs.
Arianed confirms that it was about 2 months ago when Huyan's lieutenant first forcibly took people from Asera Fall. They had attempted to make contact once or twice, but were turned away. And there was some talk in the village about what you guys had said. Hey, there are things out here that are dangerous that are not orcs or goblins. And they were...
Did Iridan speak Sylvan?
No, she's conversing in common with you guys right now.
When she mentions that the talk and all that, and Birdie just pumps his arm and says, "Called it." Although, I honestly thought that the kobolds would be the ones to burn the village to the ground, not the lizard folk.
She says as far as she knows, there haven't been any deaths. The Moakton did not attempt to fight these lizard folk at any point. However, Huyan had sent some of the capable fighters from the town, River Leaper, and the other 2 rangers, along with some of the town's children, back to Shallow Scale to be warded. That way, the town couldn't put together an uprising without putting their own children in jeopardy. And she says that Huyan insisted that this was your idea, that you told her it would be a good idea for them to maintain close relations with Asera Fall to benefit from each other's protection and prosperity. And she's very glad to hear that this isn't the case, that you told her no such thing.
Alright, to be clear, we have literally told that to the Moakton, too, though. So, like, Brick, if you're saying that she's, like... clearly, if you had said to work together, that would have immediately led to this. Like, we said that to the Moakton, too.
Well, what you find strange as you're thinking about it is you pitched this to Huyan and she shot it down.
Yeah.
And then kicked you out of her swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at some point she had a weird change of heart.
And it's still not exactly what we suggested she do anyway, which was form an alliance. This is not an alliance.
No.
This is a hostage situation.
Well, it's, as far as we know, a hostage situation.
I mean,
But you said you haven't been able to talk to anyone in the village recently, right?
The general responds that making contact with the village is very difficult because they don't allow the kobolds to get close. The lizard folk that are in the village are very capable fighters and stand in defense of the village fairly well. So far, he hasn't given any orders to try to take the village by force. He's afraid if he does so... Man, afraid's the wrong word. This man's not afraid of anything. He's 8 feet tall and a dragon. He's apprehensive that if he does so, there will be too many casualties that Huyan herself might take advantage of the chaos of the situation and slip away, and that it might leave any lizard folk or any of the Moakton in the village who attempt to flee directly into the waiting arms of these orc raiders in the area. It becomes clear, though, as you're conversing, that he does not know about this magical apple border a Seraphal has going for it.
Birdie raises his hand and says, "So you mentioned, like, he's just got his hand up like he's like a fourth grader," and he says, "So you mentioned that you were sent here to get something from Huyan. What did she take?"
He says, "Forgive me, little cousin, but I am not at liberty to discuss my grandsire's design. It is a thing of value that she had no business taking."
Would you be able to enlighten to us onto their design on this area? And after, aside from your sister and that object, if we were to help you, would your sire be interested in just, continuing to exert control here, or would they leave well enough alone once you've gotten what you wanted?
He tells you, he asks you, whether or not you know much about the nature of very old dragons.
Not firsthand. Rumors, legend, myth. So no, nothing. Nothing I trust.
He tells you that with age, dragons become very reclusive. They grow exponentially in power and in wisdom and in wealth. But they turn their attentions inward. He assures you that his sire has no designs on this region of the world at all, that he is focused on internal matters. That being said, the general admits he has a personal interest in exterminating as many of Zolog's butchers as possible. His plan is, once this Huyan situation is sorted and he goes back home, he's going to ask for leave to come back out here and take the field against these orcs for how much they've bled his troops. He takes it as an insult.
So, question for you, Brick. How far north does the Black Dragons... what would be considered his territory?
Make a history check. His territory definitely doesn't stretch this far north, that's for sure. It doesn't leave the swamp where he is. That's way, way far to the south.
History... 8.
8?
Yeah.
No, his territory doesn't stretch anywhere near this far north. What you know for sure, though, is that you've never heard anything about this red dragon before you met Huyan. If Kilbrith ever had any kind of dealings with the red dragon in the mountains, he never shared them with a lowly life form such as yourself.
Yeah. I was just wondering if there would be if the forces here did decide to exert some control. I was just wondering if there would be any conflict from the Black Dragon. Although my understanding is that I'm pretty much it in terms of his minions.
Pretty much at the moment.
But it has been a year, so who knows?
At this point, Hanto's discussion turns toward the large number of Moakton that you're traveling with. And He asks about it. He asks after it. Where did you come into contact with this group? Are they from Asera Fall? Where are they to be taken?
Is Josiah with us?
He is. He's sitting there at the table. But you can tell he's having difficulty following the discussion. He's not very good with common.
We found them in the course of our journeys, and we were bringing them to be with. We were bringing them back to Asera Falls to be with their people. We were unaware that the village is occupied.
At this point, Irina speaks up. She says that she has not heard anything of another Moten settlement anywhere in this region. How far away did you travel?
And Adrex pipes up and says, as matter-of-factly as humanly possible, oh, we went to the Feywild.
Birdie face palms.
Wendy shrugs.
And Irina immediately starts pressing you guys for details.
It would probably be best if she spoke with Josiah and asked him the questions.
I mean, Wendy will tell her some stories.
Feel like
to hear about these
Once everyone
shoes?
starts volunteering information, Red will just matter-of-factly say, these are probably all of the Moten that were willing to come with us that had been abandoned to the White Mother as children. They've been living in the Feywild at a different pace of time for who knows how long, 100 years, maybe?
Irina clarifies the sacrifices, you mean?
Yes.
She
Turns out, not dead.
At this point, the general speaks up again. He says that Irina has regaled him with stories of your prowess, great adventures that you've been on, great deeds that you've done for the village. And as a very fortunate turn of fate, you have arrived at his camp with no small number of very capable fighters who have a vested interest in seeing the village liberated. He says that he proposes an alliance for the time being.
Boy, across the group, is there a common language that most of us speak? I feel like there isn't.
No.
Common.
Yeah,
So
common.
Common was great in the Feywild. I guess I'll just say it openly that I don't see any reason not to, and I'll look across the group, see if anyone disagrees.
I want to find out from the Moten who are currently in the village or back in the Lizardmen camp their take on what's been going on, but for now I don't see anything against it either.
The general says that he has no reason to believe that Huyan yet knows of your return. The Lizardmen do not do a very good job of scouting the countryside in the area because they can hide in the village. They're holed up there. They're kind of turtling. He says he's willing to put your Moten up here while the four of you travel down to the village and make yourselves known.
Is your intention for us to go in diplomatically, or?
Well, it sounds like there are answers you need to hear from your Moten companions in the village to be assured that they're safe.
What was left? Do you have any idea of the garrison she left at Shallow Scale with the hostages and how she could contact them?
He says he doesn't know. He says that actually entering those forests is a very, very good way to lose a lot of kobolds.
Because my opinion is we should head up there, make our way into the village, free the hostages first before she's even aware of our presence.
We don't
I can't
know.
imagine there's too many lizard folk there. We have plenty of people here who can move quietly through the forest.
If you remember correctly, Huyan was scared of the situation with her father's forces. So we might be able to. That might be why she came here.
What is it exactly that you want from this? Do you need Huyan to come back from you? Do you just need the item that Huyan took?
He says he's going to take his sister home, in chains if need be.
Best to get that out now.
So our interest at this point, I believe, and I'll look across to make sure no one disagrees, is making sure liberating Asarafal from Huyan's forces with the least amount of bloodshed possible, including on the lizard folk, because while they might be hostile to you, in my opinion, the lizard folk have mostly been coerced to working for your sister, and while bloodthirsty, they're not exactly tyrants on their own.
He says that he has every confidence that if you were to visit Asarafal, they would mostly just confirm everything that he's told you. But that, yeah, you would have the ability to enter the city, look around, get a good sense of things, and then bring that information back. They'd be able to make good judgments on what course of action should be followed next.
I think we should go into Asarafal first, because they're holed up in Asarafal. They're not going to go to reinforce Shadowscale Village where the hostages are being held. If we want to go rescue the hostages, we can do that at a later date.
My only fear is she has some sort of magical communication.
Red, make me a perception check.
Sure. That would be a 26.
Okay. So you guys are going to leave the Moakton here while you guys travel down into Asarafal?
That's my vote.
Okay.
It seems fine.
If everyone else wants to, my opinion is it'd be better to go to shallow scale first, but if everyone else thinks that's the best course of action, I won't challenge it.
Okay. We're going to take our break a little bit early today. So I can put this together real quick. Let's reconvene in about 15 minutes, so about 4:05. We are going to be ending a little earlier today. We're going to break at 5:30 instead of 6:30.
That's fine. I like
How
that.
long is that from now?
About 90 minutes.
Okay. Sorry, time zones. I didn't want to do the math.
Oh.
I would have
all
asked
day
you to do the math, so...
Do that all day at work anyway.
So
no need to
why did this happen?
do it on my day off.
I mean, I'm not
What
mad.
happened?
I just want to know who did it.
I can't even see what you're talking about because my view of the board is half of a screen, so I can just see where we are.
Okay.
That is a very big. That's a very big D20.
The D20 to roll them all. Oh.
It does get larger or smaller without really noticing.
Don't worry, I'm fixing it.
So the
Okay,
four of you are going to
that's
travel down into Asarafal. And are we keeping with the same basic marching orders with Windy scouting out ahead first?
Flying orders.
How likely? It's just plains, like short grass and all that, fields around Asarafal. There's no cover, is there?
Is it our plan to sneak in? Yeah, that's the question.
That's
Like-
up to you. You can attempt to sneak in, or you can just march in like you own the place.
There isn't really much cover, if I remember correctly.
But no, once you leave
Around
the
the town.
foothills and go down, there are wooded areas around Asarafal, but it is pretty much open on all sides. It would be harder to approach from the south in force because you do have that. I mean, the river is only a marginal barricade because it's pretty much shallow enough to just wade across. But yeah, the river is the only real feature there.
I mean,
by this point, we basically do own the place.
Yeah,
So
Birdie's
I
feeling
say we
pretty
just
good.
head in there.
Okay,
Birdie's
Red.
feeling pretty confident because he's not got the shiny black new scales. So he's let's go. Let's march in.
As the preparations are being made to leave and travel down the foothills, you guys are collecting provisions and things. Red, you notice one of the Dragonborn, one of the orange ones, not one of the ones who is standing next to the general as a lieutenant. There are, I guess for lack of a better term, there are more mercenary-looking Dragonborns here as well. One of them seems paying particular interest in you, but he never approaches you. You catch his gaze once in a while. And at first you think it's just coincidence, but after a few hours of being in the camp, you notice this orange Dragonborn watching you very intently, and you're not sure why.
Who is he watching?
Red.
Red.
Like, if he tells us that this guy's watching him, I know what my suggestion will be.
I don't think I'll say anything. Actually, what I'm going to do. So we're, sitting here with knives and whatnot, right? Like we're finishing up a meal.
I mean, a kobold group like this typically doesn't have cutlery. They're just
Yeah, but we
tearing the
do.
meat off the bone. You're eating
I mean,
it like
there's
civilized people?
never a situation where Wendy is
Right,
not
doesn't have
absolutely
any
100% covered in equipment.
Is there like some sort of piece of wood or some other scrap around here that's a little bit more sturdy than
Throw a plate.
they can just sort of pick up? Like a wooden plate or something? 'Cause it seems like they're pretty good about just throwing stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just kind of palm a wooden plate and onto the back of it while no one else is really paying attention to me. Red will carve a thieves' cant symbol for work, and then just sort of flash it to that Dragonborn.
For what work?
Work, yeah, like the symbol you would see on a place where like the Thieves Guild hangs out. Like this is a place you can come to look for work,
Okay.
and see if he makes any sign of recognition of it.
Make an insight check.
Yep.
I don't think Red's very good at that.
No, he's terrible.
Not very good today. That's an 8.
An 8. You can't be sure whether or not he noticed it.
Okay.
Meow.
Cat.
So you guys intend to leave camp immediately, or you're going to wait until morning?
I would like to go in at night, where if we get into a fight, I can get the. I'm not shooting at
I
distance.
feel like lizardmen see in the dark better than we see in the dark.
Speak for yourself. Listen, you got to go fly and all this other stuff when you got your wings back. I haven't got to see in the dark. It's not fair.
Yeah. I haven't even read anyone's mind yet. We're pretty well rested. I'm completely okay with going in at night. It's just, is Adrex okay with it? I think he's.
I haven't even
more
read
interested
anyone's
than me.
mind yet, says Red, as she tries to think of a way to divine this guy's intentions.
I was thinking about it, but
Adrix good with leaving at night?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm okay with it.
I mean, the question is,
Can I light a torch, or is that going to be like, no torch?
I think once we're away from the encampment, so they can't necessarily trace back to where we came from. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Maybe
when you
we,
guys look out of the encampment, out to the entrance where the other Mokden are camped on the overlook, they have a big fire going. They've hunted game. They've set up their camp just outside of here.
Are there
Just like
fires in
the-
the camp?
actually,
Little cook fires and things, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, we might need to go in during the day because if we want to speak to the Mokden, we won't be busting in their houses. We're not going to sneak in anyway, right? We're just going to walk in. So going in at night would be probably counterproductive to just busting in like we own the place.
I just want to be able to see. That's
All right. Let's go during the day.
That's all I want.
I mean, because we go, if we do the math, sunlight hurts one person, daylight hurts two. I mean, nighttime hurts two. So, yeah.
Adrix,
Yes.
the next morning, as you guys are about to set out, one of the orange Dragonborn in camp approaches you.
Mm.
He seems very chipper. He's very much a morning person. And you can see he's girded. He's not wearing heavy armor like you are. He has a bow strapped on his back and several daggers kitted around a bandolier that he wears across his chest. He introduces himself as Orion.
Orion?
Orion.
Orion. I'm gonna write that down. Alright. Adrex introduces himself.
He tells you that he's very distantly related to the Sire's blood. He's here in a more mercenary capacity.
Mm.
But he has a proposition if you have a few minutes to hear him out.
Well, I don't fancy myself as a mercenary. What do you have in mind? Tend to be preoccupied these days.
He says that he's lived in the mountains near to Kyungyan's lair most of his life. In fact, the little bit of traveling that he's done with Hanto just this past few months has been the most he's really seen of the world. And if you don't mind him saying, this is the first time he's seen a Dragonborn of your coloration before.
Oh, okay.
And he spent the last couple of months just listening to Irianid's stories of your guys' prowess. And he's very impressed. He wants to offer you his services when you travel down into Asera Fall. He wants to accompany you and your group.
Yeah, absolutely. You may absolutely tag along and join us on our travel to Asera Fall. I'm sure the others won't mind at all.
What's Adrex's passive insight?
His passive insight is 11.
11? Okay.
It's just 10 plus insight, right? Yeah.
So yeah, Adrex very quickly introduces you guys to Orion, the Orange Dragonborn. And Red, this is definitely the guy that was eyeballing you the previous day.
That's what I thought.
And he just tells us the same thing.
He tells you that officially he would be going along to see after the general's interests. The general is a very trusting man, which is why he has people like Orion on his payroll to go along and kind of keep an eye on things. But personally, he's just very interested to see what Adrex is capable of if and when you guys cross the paths of some orcs.
Can I do an insight roll on that?
Sure.
What, you don't trust Adrex's insight? Adrex is a great judge of character.
That would be a 19.
Unrelated, Adrex is also the foremost expert in the party on elves.
What strikes you as
say
very
anything.
strange, Red, is that during this conversation, like, he's not paying you hardly any regard at all. Like, mostly he's kind of fawning over Adrex, but you do notice that in turn he does briefly address Windy and Birdie, but not you.
Huh. Strange. I'll shrug.
And then he asks if your plan is to approach the town kind of covertly, or if you're just going to be traveling in.
I think our plan was just to go on in at this point. Although
Yeah.
if you have any covert-like plans, I'd be happy to hear them.
Birdie sighs and says, he points at Adrex, he says, stealth never works with him.
I mean, look at me. You try to be this and be stealthy.
He
And
tells
Windy
you,
looks over at the other Dragonborn.
he tells you that if you were trying to enter the town without being spotted, this is the particular kind of work that he's very good at. He thinks that he indicates Birdie, could slip in under cover of darkness without being seen by anybody, take the temperature of the town, and report back to you guys without anybody in the town being the wiser. At this point, you guys have left the camp and you're headed down into the path.
Can I just let me before we leave? I want to make this clear.
Mm-hmm.
We, as far as any of you know, we did not bring back a small contingent of Moakton soldiers from the Feywild. We were just missing ourselves. I do not want to let on that there are a bunch of armed Moakton here now. Because as far as we know, the Lizardmen are not good at scouting, so let's keep that in our back pocket. All right? Everyone clear?
I have no pockets in my pants.
Birdie?
Sorry, I'm doing my Adrex impression.
I know. And that applies to you too, new guy.
And Orion says that he's shocked that you guys came back with this many Moakton warriors to begin with. But he concurs with you. The lizard men are kind of out of their element right now. Out here in the open plains.
I get it, and not the water.
Right, exactly. Because they're from the swamps, you see.
Yeah.
Adrex has already lost interest in this conversation, is staring into the sky.
Adrex,
Adrex, don't stare at the sun.
What are we not going to say when we meet the lizard folk?
I don't know. What are we not going to say?
That there are any Moakton that came back with us.
Right.
All right, I think I got through to him that time.
Why are we
a
not?
bad thing?
just let me do most of the talking.
You got it.
Orion,
You can do the flexing so you don't get bored.
on the subject of sneaking into the town, Orion says that this is an idea he's tried to float by the general before. Get eyes in the town, find out what's going on. He's perfectly suited to tasks like this. He says the problem the general has is that the sire's blood is too thick. He's too proud to stoop to tasks that he feels are beneath him. Anything that involves being sneaky or covert. He feels that these things are dishonorable.
So
Well,
Kuyan has the same belief.
I am very, very sneaky.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do.
Say, Orion will absolutely sneak into the town with Birdie. He says Birdie, and he could get in without being noticed, find out what's going on, and report back all over the course of the same night.
Birdie raises his hand again like he's in 4th grade, because that's just what he does. He says, why just me? Can Red come? Because I don't know you. And you're bigger than me, and you...
And he looks Red up and down. Red, are you dressed in any particular manner that, like, screams thief or burglar? You're
Not
primarily armed with
screams.
daggers, right?
I mean, he's got a. Oh no, I don't have a rapier anymore. Yeah, no, I've got 4 daggers on me, and that's it. Most of the rest of my equipment is pretty well concealed, aside from a pack. So, maybe.
His only, in Orion's expertise, the only problem with that is you'd be leaving Adrex and Windy alone. If you guys,
I mean, Windy's good to come along too. Not being seen is just a factor of moving right, and I'm an expert at that.
And now this plan is starting to sound less and less like sneaking into town and figuring things out, and just more and more like just everybody walking into town together. And he's very amused by this turn. He thinks it's very, very pleasant that everybody wants to accompany him.
Adrex is preoccupied with getting some snot out.
Windy, let's get a perception check, by the way, if you're doing your scouting. Adrex is preoccupied with doing what?
Getting snot out of his nose as this conversation.
Don't make
goes.
him say it again.
just in the corner picking his nose.
That's a 25.
So yeah,
I think
Red,
he's got a.
you take careful note that he seems very keen on the idea of sneaking into the village. He thinks that this is something that the general should have allowed him to do before now, but he's less keen on the idea when it sounds like you and Red, or you and Birdie and he would be sneaking in together. Wendy, your perception
All right,
is what?
let's do it.
That was a 25.
A 25?
Yeah.
Well,
What would you
Let's,
say
let's-
if I told you you spotted orc outriders in between you and the village as you're approaching the village from the east?
Orcs. How many outriders?
It looks like a small scouting patrol. 3 orcs on their wargs. They haven't noticed you in the air.
Alright, I think I'm gonna come back and relay the information.
Okay?
Maybe we can ambush them on the way. Find out what the orcs have been up to.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And also, I think if we have it's probably more reasonable if we have a fight with orcs to approach the town, because the lizard folk might not attack us if they don't recognize us. I think at this point, if we're just marching in there, we should at least do something to make it clear that we're friendly. We're basically in a war zone.
I can sneak in with the guy if you want. If you think that's if everyone thinks that's prudent.
I'm going to continue talking about how we should attack ambush the orcs, but use that to deliver a thieves' can't message to Birdie saying, absolutely do not let yourself be alone with this Dragonborn.
Birdie will send him a message back saying, "You think he's going to try and eat me?"
Just nod.
It's like Birdie nods back and motions and says, "I had the same feeling."
So what's the plan regarding these orcs? You're going to decide pretty quickly if you want to run them down and ambush them.
Yeah, I say we ambush them.
Yep,
Ambush.
absolutely.
Okay.
Let the ambushy types go first. And then Adrex will bring up the rear.
If we can get in their path, then we can just shoot them full of arrows.
Yeah, getting in their path to intercept them and laying an ambush is what you're going to have to do.
We can shoot 2 of them full of arrows and take out the 3rd one.
So let's go ahead and get our trusty battle map that we're using every single session now.
Question for Red? When did you lose your rapier?
I put it in the statue when I stole the scepter as a replacement. To make it
Okay.
less obvious that something was missing.
Do you want my short sword? I never used the thing.
I'm fine with a dagger.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm kind of hoping at this point that we hunt down some orcs wearing a black metal whip, because I've kind of got an aesthetic going on.
So go ahead and set yourself up in ambush here. Here is...
Are we going to need to spellcraft flame shield for you, buddy?
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, that would be really good on your character. Let's not even joke about it, right?
So the orcs are going to come up to the middle here.
Yeah, the orcs will be traveling through the middle of the map.
Where's our new
Nice.
dragon friend?
I put him in the middle here. He's this blue
He's the
one.
blue guy? Okay.
I guess he should be orange, but I just picked
His
a random
name.
color.
New dragon friend.
Can I, give Adrex tips on where to hide, and then if he just stays still, he can maybe get a hide check at advantage if he has a lot of time to prepare?
No.
Okay. It's worth trying.
Oh man!
I was trying to use the 8 and other for hide. It's fine.
I would allow it if you also weren't trying to hide yourself.
Okay.
But I'm going to assume if you put Adrix somewhere and cover him up, he's just going to immediately sneeze or something terrible is going to happen. But I will
That's
let everybody
probably
who's
true.
trying to hide make their own hide check.
Do you need a short sword? I've got a few. I got some.
I'm
axes.
fine with
Oh,
daggers,
alright.
man.
All right.
Okay. And go ahead and roll some initiative as well.
Already got a 24 on the hide check. And he rolled terrible on initiative.
Wrong color.
You're on my spot.
God damn it, Raazu. Get out of here.
Adrex, the new riot?
Alright, it's going on 12.
23 on stealth for red.
Okay.
21 on stealth for Windy.
Oh, I suppose Adrex has to roll his, huh?
Yeah, if you're trying to hide.
I
Disadvantage
got a
because of your armor.
3!
I just kind of was expecting him just to kind of stand there. We're all crouched down, and he's just kind of standing
You're
there.
at disadvantage because of your armor, though.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's too bad because 17's not bad.
Yeah, it's a pretty good roll, yeah.
And you're actually pretty dexterous, so that would have been okay. Hey! That's okay!
Where 17s?
So that turns into what? Just 17?
17.
All right.
Wait, no, you have dex, right?
No, I don't. I have strength.
I thought you used
He's
dex.
a strong boy.
Okay.
He wears heavy armor.
He uses a finesse weapon because he gets that offhand bonus with it
Okay.
that he doesn't get
That
with
makes more
longswords.
sense.
All right, then yeah, these orcs come tearing up the path. They're moving in the direction that Windy was originally scouting from, so you guys had plenty of time to get into position, wait for this patrol to come by, and you recognize the colors of Zorog's butchers. Red, you have the initiative, and it absolutely looks like you've got the drop on these guys.
Where is he? The orc?
They're down here. There's 3 orcs, each riding a ward.
1 second to double check something. Sorry, 1 second.
Just flip through. He's looking for an appropriate Bible quotation in the good book.
Okay. Too many editions of D&D. Couldn't remember if this edition had a 30-foot range limit on sneak attack. Let's go ahead and put an arrow in that guy.
Okay,
And advantage because of stealth. Is that
Yep.
correct?
that's correct.
So that'll hit an armor class of 20.
That's good.
6 plus 3, 6 plus 4. For 18 damage.
18. As you blast this poor bastard off his warg, he hits the ground dead. The other 2 rein up and start looking around very nervously in the direction this arrow came from.
Bonus action to give Windy advantage on her first attack against this orc.
Okay.
And then that's the end of my turn.
And when they see you there, they turn in your direction, but they're all still very surprised. That's going to bring us to Orion, who is also going to roll with advantage because he is
Cast
also
it.
hidden.
Eldritch Blistle.
Well, just throw away that 1. Don't need that. And I have his stat block somewhere, I think. Yeah, here it is. Well, that's a D6 I'll never see again. It's gone. And he puts an arrow into this orc right here. But that orc does not drop. And that's going to bring us to... Who's next on the list over here?
That would be...
Windy.
And Windy is going to count the number of squares, take a sharpshooter shot at this guy at
Okay.
advantage because of stealth.
Yep.
That's a 23
23 will hit.
for That's a D10, which is not what a longbow has. 20 piercing damage, magical.
You blast him off his warg as well.
And then I'm going to race over and try to knock this guy unconscious.
So, question: what is your flight speed now? You said it was ridiculous.
Oh, that would be 65.
So you're gonna knock this one unconscious?
Yeah.
Using
So I'm going to
what?
go in for a blow with my talons. I guess actually my shoes, because they're very nice shoes.
Wearing high heels.
Oh right, I have an advantage because of Red's
Yep.
shot. That's why I shot the other one
Yep.
first.